everyone, Ariel Adams here with aBlogtoWatch. Please listen to our other podcast, aBlogtoWatch Weekly, where we talk about the latest watch news and reviews. Today on Superlative, my guest is the managing director of, well, we'll talk more about what part of Leica, but Henrik Ekdahl is probably someone whose job you're going to be jealous of. I'm a bit jealous of it because, well, we'll get into that. But Henrik, welcome to Superlative. How are you today?
Thank you very much. I'm fine. I'm really looking forward to this podcast, and I'm grateful that you stay up late night in LA while I'm in Scandinavia right now.
Yeah, so you're in your home country, right?
Yeah, I'm here on the Swedish west coast, and the sun is shining, and I see the sea in the background, and but I'm rather here in front of the camera with you and your audience.
So I was looking at your LinkedIn profile, and I was honestly very impressed at not only the different jobs you have and the different education, but I realized something. I want you to confirm this. In all of your jobs, I don't know if this was by design or by accident, you got to play with really cool toys. Was that an accident?
It was, yeah, it's a bit of a mix of planned and by accident and a bit of good luck. Indeed, I did start to work after university. I did start to work for Leica back in the mid-90s, and I was in charge of sales of Eastern Europe. So after 2 weeks, I already found myself on the biggest camera fair called the Photokina in Cologne, and I was in charge of everybody coming from Eastern Europe. So I was a interesting start, and I traveled a lot to Russia, to other Eastern European countries, and built up the brand there, and it was pretty exciting, yeah. And after that, since I've always had a huge interest in watches. Actually, I bought my first watch when I was only 7 years old. I continued to Cartier as a product manager for watches, and then from there to Rolls-Royce brand strategy, marketing manager for BMW, and then 17 years as the managing director for IWC Schaffhausen, a pretty nice watch brand as well, for heading 3 subsidiaries in Central Europe, Eastern Europe, Turkey, Israel. So a big area, and I could never imagine myself working with products I am not personally interested in.
I mean, look, I'm someone who's a bit of a professional studying the species known as watch collector. And if you had to look at like the 3 things that most watch collectors around the world like a lot, it's watches and cars and cameras. And that's basically been the extent of your career, right? Like you are the right person to be running a company that makes at least 2 of those things.
Absolutely. Well, at least I hope so. No, it's true. When we talk to our customers, whether it's camera customers or watch collectors, they often have these interests which you just described. And you're just so. Are you a product guy when you're a man?
Do you like those things? Well, so we have the term, I'm sure you're familiar with it, product guy, when describing a CEO or a manager. You know, he or she, they're a product person. You know, they like the watches versus it just being a commodity that they're shifting. No. You have to be a hardcore product guy.
I love our products. Not only the watches, but accessories, which we will actually launch later this year, which I cannot talk about, but also the cameras. And I also have a hunting license, which I do not hunt often, but I mean the rifle scopes, etc. Everything that Leica offers it's a fantastic brand, and also the companies and brands I worked for before. Of course, I still have a Beamer. I do not have a Rolls-Royce, I have to admit, but no, it's. I like the products.
You're still
I like
young,
to
don't
touch
worry.
them. I like to use them. Well, I doubt that I will reach that level. But no, I like the products, definitely. At the same time, of course, I'm not a watchmaker. So I'm not into the every last detail. So you will always find people who know more than you do yourself. But I do use the products. I like them.
Now, all the companies you worked for are brands that, at least at the best of times, have a very strong, we'll call it brand image, a very strong personality. They're not ambiguous. They're not just sort of floating names. There's like a strong association with them. And I want to know your opinion. Do you agree that for a lot of these luxury products to be successful, they can't just be good products, but they have to come from brands with a very strong personality?
You need a mix to be long-term successful. No? If you have products and a huge marketing budget, of course you can have some kind of hype, but the hype will soon be over, and then it's all over. Huh? And I also read what you said about the future of the watch industry in an article where you were interviewed, that it's shrinking in production numbers, which it is, and we certainly, and when I use the term we, I mean everybody producing mechanical watches. We certainly have to make sure that the customers get value for their money, that we interest young people in this fantastic product, in this beautiful world of mechanical watchmaking. And you have to, just the story is not enough, but you also need a story. So you need the product which performs, which grants value for money, but you also need a great story to tell. Some stories, of course, a story always starts somewhere. So some stories are new, some stories are old, and I'm pretty sure we'll get into our old story from 1870 pretty soon, when the story of Leica started. So it's a mix of different factors. You also have to have the right people who are not just managerial mercenaries traveling the world, but who really love the brand and the products. And one of the great things is that when I rejoined Leica 1.5 years ago, there were quite a number of people still working for Leica, which I worked with back in '96. Huh?
Oh, nice!
And that's pretty fantastic. Yeah,
that's rare.
Yeah, I mean, they all made a career. They have different jobs now, but they are still there. Huh? And I think that's a fantastic sign of how great this company is. The brand is fascinating. The products are amazing, but it's also a nice company to work for, and that's pretty important.
I've always found that there's a real sense of family, not just a fake sense, but a real sense of family at some of the German companies. And I've been internally at a few of them. I wouldn't say it's across the board, but I think it's a little bit more cutthroat maybe in Switzerland and France, and in Germany, at least they try to make it like a career place. Like if you wanted to, you could feasibly grow with them for the rest of your life. They still try to do that, right?
Things are changing a bit also in Germany, but overall, I would agree with what you're saying. For Leica, that is definitely true. For example, you know that Leica's majority shareholder, Dr. Kaufmann, he's heavily involved in the company. So is his daughter, Charlotte Ebner Kaufmann. She's actually my marketing manager. And her husband is working with me as the MD, co-MD, in charge of finance and other important things like that, while I am concentrating on marketing, sales, products. So the whole family, the owner family, is heavily involved, which is great. And they are not the only ones. Actually, the other family members are also working for Leica. So that is very special for Leica. But overall, I think German companies are a bit more long-term regarding their employees, and I think that's good. Then again, of course, you need the fresh blood from time to time. Huh?
Yeah, of course. I'm really glad that you mentioned that about the managing family. Because I've always had this theory that a luxury brand has to have a visionary at the top. It could be the founder. It could be the owning family. It could be a creative director. But I feel that sometimes brands that especially are corporate owned, when their only mandate is like make money somehow, it doesn't give anybody working there much direction. They're like, okay, but I'm not really sure what direction you want me to go in to do that thing. Do you feel that them being so active helps create the vision, or is there some other way they try to empower that? Because you've been at both places, I'm sure, places that seem to have a vision and others are like, I'm not sure what we should be aiming for here.
I think I've actually only seen companies that have a vision.
Lucky you.
BMW, IWC Schaffhausen, Rolls-Royce. I mean, that's Cartier.
But you know what I mean,
all
right?
Successful brands. Yeah. I know what you mean. We have a quite impressive home of the brand in Wetzlar, which is 50 kilometers north of Frankfurt. So whoever makes it to Frankfurt, grab a cab, go and visit us. We have not just the headquarter and the manufacturing facilities, but we also have a hotel, we have a restaurant, and now the important thing, we have a museum and we have the archive. And,
I didn't know you had all that stuff. That's cool.
Yeah. Check it out on the internet. It's pretty impressive. And it's actually what a lot of other luxury brands probably dream of. We have it already. And we have more than 30,000 visitors per year. School classes, older gentlemen with their beloved M6 camera, analog camera around their neck. A lot of people, young people with a Q3 camera. So one of the most important things is the museum and the archive, because I don't know if I want to call Leica a luxury brand. It's somewhere between premium, luxury, art, culture, icon. To me, it's more than just a luxury brand. But the heritage is super important, and we do have the heritage, and you can see it, you can almost touch it on site, and that is super important. You can also create new luxury brands, but it takes a lot of money and very good ideas and time to establish them.
Help answer this question for people that don't know. Different luxury products are different for different reasons, some just to be expensive. A lot of people's interaction with Leica, especially people that aren't fans, and I admit, I have a lot to learn about the company's products. They approach very high prices. The question is, why are the prices high? What are you getting for it? If it's not a luxury company, if the company doesn't see himself as charging a lot for exclusivity, then explain to the consumer, what is it that they're paying for? What is the sort of Leica promise or value?
We do offer exceptional quality. If we look at the cameras, for example, I'm completely convinced we're the world leader in optics, for example. We have, compared to some other competitors, we have a pretty small scale production because the prices are upmarket, because production is limited, because we do not sell our products everywhere. We believe that it's part of an ecosystem linking together culture, art, the product itself. The fantastic way of creating something with these products. So of course that means that the price level is pretty high. We do not have a mass production outsourced somewhere in the Far East. And actually all this linked together means that you kind of become. It might sound a bit strange, but you're actually part of a Leica family wherever you are in the world. When you see somebody with a Leica product, people start to talk to each other, and I've seen it myself a lot of times that people approach me when I have for example, a Leica camera around my neck. They start to talk. They said, "Oh, my father always used Leica," or "I have a Leica myself," or this and that, and there's even a sense of trust among these family members. A couple of months ago, I was told a story where two gentlemen visiting Japan ran into each other on a street in Japan, and one had a lens the other didn't have. So he just gave the lens to the other guy and said, "I'll pick it up in Paris in 4 weeks," and it worked. I mean, you will not see that with a lot of other brands. But
not with those Canon people. No, I agree. I've witnessed that myself. It always is a question like, what body is that? And let me check it out. Is that version? It is an object that invites a lot of questions. So what you're saying is it's not expensive for expensive sake. It's expensive because you're aiming for top quality. You don't make a lot of cameras and optical equipment and things like that. you make it in Germany in-house, and all of this just, comes with a layer of costs that, is difficult to control.
Yeah. We don't have there are other manufacturers that offer true value for money, definitely. But we don't just make the products expensive for the sake of it. No, it's also regarding our watch production. I mean, it's very, very limited so far, and it will be rather limited in the years to come as well. So no, it's not just to make products expensive without offering something for it, but it's simply the costs of production and research development are pretty high if you go for small scale production.
Now, we're obviously going to talk a lot about the watch thing, and I guess the best thing to do is to begin with the fact that the technical company you work for is Ernst Leitz Werkstätten. Ernst Leitz is the founder, and correct me if I'm wrong, but he was a watchmaker. The founder of Leica was a watchmaker, right? Yes.
And when I found out that, I was very happy because we need, of course, credibility.
Of course.
Because you can imagine that we are approached quite frequently by people who say, "Hey, why do you guys start to do watches?" And when I tell them, well, it all started with watchmaking back in 1870. Then they are pretty fascinated, and from this, a bit reluctant attitude towards our watch project, suddenly they get interested. I've seen that a lot of times. Actually, in 1870, Ernst Leitz I, he was 20 years old. He went to Neuchâtel in Switzerland, which is one of the hubs for watchmaking, and there was a watchmaker called Matthäus Hipp. And he did a training there for we don't know exactly how long, but he was there and he was trained as a watchmaker. So he learned about working with materials used in watchmaking. He learned about making big things very small, very precise. He also learned about serial production, which is super important. And this knowledge he took back to Wetzlar. And it became part of the DNA of Leica. So soon the company was founded in Wetzlar, and they started to construct microscopes. And of course, in microscopes, you have a lot of parts which remind of watches when you focus, and then in this year, actually 100 years ago, and we're celebrating that pretty big around the world, the first 35 millimeter camera was launched, and that must have been a revolution, just like the first smartphone now, because suddenly you could document, you could take photos of how life is really evolving, and not just ask somebody to stand still for 5 minutes until you take a photo. So that was a huge step, and actually I brought one of our iconic products. It's a Leica M6 here.
Oh wow!
It was introduced in 1984, and when you take off the top cover, you see that there is there's a mechanical timekeeping device here. And it's amazing. It's super exact. From you even hear this is 1 second.
Yeah.
So when you look at the parts here, and I was amazed when I visited the manufacturing facility and I saw this. I said, we need this. We need this to explain to journalists, to end customers. This is the bridge between cameras and watches, and there are a lot of parts here which remind of watches, and this is a great way of explaining why we are engaged in watchmaking now. And actually, it all started, or back in the days when I worked for Leica, we did have bundles of cameras with watches, but these watches were mainly quartz watches. They were they had a design which somehow was Leica-like, a bit reduced, a bit Bauhaus, a bit industrial. But the serious project started in 2015 when our majority owner and chairman of the supervisory board, Dr. Kaufmann, who loves not only cameras and photography, but he's a watch guy, And I imagine that he looked at his wrist and he saw some other brand. I know he likes Jaeger-LeCoultre a lot. And he said, we need a Leica for the wrist, because he was, of course, aware of the heritage. He knew how many parts we have in some of our models, in some of our cameras, which are a link to the world of watches. So a project started, and we involved different people internally, but also external persons. For example, the movement constructor, he also worked for Lange & Söhne, which is a pretty nice brand as well. And this project team sat together, and they, of course, thought about what kind of watch should be the first real Leica watch to hit the market. And they came up with the not just the idea, but they developed a manufacture movement, a hand wound movement. Why hand wound? Because the interaction between the person wearing a watch, if it's hand wound, is even stronger. You have to feed this beautiful creature on your wrist regularly, otherwise it stops running. So they came up with the ZM1 and 2, which I of course have here. The ZM1 and 2.
Yep.
And I think when you look at them, these kind of the design is Leica-like. It fits well to the brand, and they offer 3 and 7 complications. And if you look at the movement, I show you the movement here. It's a beautiful hand-wound movement, and it's deliberately, it's not engraved or so. It is a bit industrial, because we are an industrial company, and these beautiful watches were then launched in 2022, because it takes time to construct them. It takes time to find a partner who can actually produce them, and we found this partner in the Black Forest in southern Germany. The company is called Lehmann Präzision. And there's a Mr. Lehmann as well. And actually, he is heavily involved in milling, in precision engineering. And if you go through our manufacturing site, you see a lot of machines which we use to make cameras, which are marked Lehmann. So we already knew each other. And he also has a small watch brand of his own. So he knew how to make the parts, and the ZM1 and 2, ZM stands for Zeitmesser, time measuring device. They are entirely made in Germany in the Black Forest. So in 2022 the new watch era started at Leica, to be followed in 2023 by the ZM 11 and 12, which I'm also wearing today. And these watches are automatic. They are made in Switzerland. Why not Germany? Well, we needed also an automatic movement, and Lehmann did not have one available. It also would have taken too many years to develop one, so we needed one a bit faster, because you cannot really launch a watch brand with only one product line. You need at least 2. And we found a great partner in not far from Neuchâtel, in Le Locle, which is also one of the watchmaking hubs in the world. And the company's name is Chronode. They have a very good reputation. I hear that around the world when I travel. I was in New York not long ago, 4 or 5 weeks ago, and we had an event there. And Jean-François Maujean, who is the founder and the watchmaking head behind Chronode, he's pretty well known. So we do have 2 great partners, but the main decisions are definitely being taken by Leica at the headquarters at the Ernst Leitz Werkstätten, which is located in Wetzlar.
Henrik, thanks for all that information. I have to unpack a few things. First of all, Mr. Kaufman's favorite watch brand, Jaeger-LeCoultre, also a long time ago made cameras, right? So people may not know the shared history, and I think that originally, many of the same laborers and machines were used to produce watchmaking parts and camera parts. So there was sort of a natural synergy. You could take that effort and you could put it into one of the two directions, if not both sometimes. So I think that as you think about it, it makes a huge amount of sense. So when you came back to Leica 2024, and you were given this interesting role of their accessories division, not the sexiest name, but obviously awesome stuff. What did they tell you the job would entail? Were they saying that we were growing this division? How was it described to you at the time?
Definitely, it was described to me in the way that the watches are here to stay, and sometimes people question whether this is a long-term project or we just came with the ZM1 and 2 and what will happen next. But the watches are here to stay. The personal interest in this project from the main shareholder is very high, which is great, because it takes time to develop this project and to make ourselves a reputation in the market. But it was not only regarding watches, as you said, the accessories or lifestyle division. The products we are in charge of are mainly watches, but also other non-technical accessories. Could be leather goods, could be other things. Remains to be seen. We do not want to dilute the brand. But if we have the core brand Leica, we do think we are entitled to take small steps and kind of extend the product portfolio here and there, but it does have to make sense. We also want to I describe it by saying that we have a couple of small plants which we want to grow into strong trees. At the same time, the main product should and will and hopefully always will be the camera portfolio. But it does make sense. For example, we have fantastic home projectors, the Cineplay and the Cine One. They are amazing. So optics is involved there, and you see a picture on the wall instead of in a viewfinder or on a laptop. We also make glasses for eyeglasses, and we have the watches and some other product ranges. So it was the task was to establish watches as a successful branch within Leica, but also to further develop other things that are somewhere between premium and luxury, and that makes sense. Huh?
Citizen Watch celebrates the 40th anniversary of the seminal Aqualand diving tool with a brand new limited edition timepiece. In 1985, prior to the availability of most wearable dive computers, Citizen released the first Aqualand wristwatch that was meant to combine a wearable sports timing tool with a useful, precise electronic depth gauge for recreational and professional diving purposes. The Aqualand family of products eventually developed into Citizen's now iconic ProMaster family of utility-driven watches and represents a style that has been worn by enthusiasts for well over a generation. The 2025 limited edition Citizen ProMaster Aqualand 40th anniversary model honors the iconic Aqualand profile, including an analog digital dial display, an attached pressure sensor module on the left side of the 200-meter water-resistant steel case, and a comfortable diver's-style strap that can easily be worn over a wetsuit. Citizen has further modernized the classic Aqualand with new underwater timing and depth tracking features. Novices to the Aqualand universe and enthusiasts alike can pick up this limited edition Citizen for just $595 while supplies last. Learn more at citizenwatch.com. Now, ever since I was very young, I loved what I thought of as German lifestyle brands. German companies that made a variety of products, sometimes focused around a theme. They just always seemed to have the best combination of functionality, design, and longevity. I liked them more than the Italian stuff or the Swiss stuff. It just seemed a little bit more me. And I continue to do that. I continue to drive German cars and prefer German watches a lot of times. With that said, I've seen some remarkable failures, and I'd like your assessment on two brands that I feel haven't reached their potential, have really let themselves down in a lot of ways. Maybe not necessarily in the individual products, but in overall branding or asserting a message. And that is two German-speaking brands, Porsche Design and Montblanc. I'm a big fan of these companies historically. I have products by both of them, and I think they do good stuff. Yet from asserting themselves in a world market and actually just having the confidence of showing what they're good at, they haven't done so well lately. Leica, of course, is in the same camp as them, though you're obviously doing better. What has Leica done better than those companies? And again, as a professional in this space, what do you see as being some of the material failures? Because they obviously do a lot of things well, but they seem to be missing a few important things right now.
That's a tough and a tricky question you asked there.
Sure, you're a smart guy.
Brands. Yeah, really have to think of how to answer that. We do, of course, from time to time stumble across both brands when we discuss internally and what we would like to see as some kind of a competition or what we would like to avoid. Actually, both brands have kind of have the potential to act as something we are looking at in a positive way, but also things we don't want to do.
Sure.
And without judging those brands now, I mean, Montblanc is one of the brands of Richemont, where I worked for almost 20 years. I do think that they are doing very well in certain parts of their product portfolio, while other things simply take a lot of time, and maybe they also did some mistakes here and there. But for example, to build up the watch division, it takes not just years, it takes decades. And I'm without knowing more details about where they are successful and where they are less successful. I think in markets that are very conservative, it's probably more of a challenge to build up a brand. I could imagine that it's easier in markets where people are a bit more open-minded, like the US. Then, for example, in Germany, people are very focused on what was always there is what you should buy. And that, of course, also gives us a bit of a challenge. But we are not aiming to become the next rising star on the watch horizon. We want to grow this business long term. It must be profitable, of course. It must also transfer positive image from the luxury industry, because with the watches we're definitely in luxury, to the main brand, but we're not aiming to sell 50,000 watches in 5 years. We will not be able to do that. So maybe our ambition level is a bit lower than what Montblanc had, and I guess Montblanc also put other resources in their project than we are currently doing. So it's all a bit more small scale on our side, but with a lot of ambition and with some great products, and that's where I would end my answer on the competing brands.
Fair enough. I just think it's interesting that it's more than just product. I think all these companies we're talking about have, at the end of the day, a lot of good product. But in today's competitive environment, to succeed as a brand, it's very difficult. And I'm wondering, a lot of what you have to do is educate consumers about what you do. What are some of today's tools that you're excited about or maybe not so excited about? Because despite the availability of information to reach people, it kind of seems harder than ever just to inform people that you sell something and why maybe they might want it.
Yeah. One more thing regarding what differs us from these two other brands.
Oh, please.
We have this heritage with a watchmaker background, with the founder being a watchmaker, with the products that have a lot of parts in them, just like I explained a couple of minutes ago. So that is a huge difference. I wonder whether when you open the hood of a sports car, that you find a lot of parts there that remind of a watch. I haven't seen it so far. So that is a huge advantage we do have, which they don't have. But regarding the message to the consumers, I mean, we are not developing and producing and selling watches only to Leica lovers. That was, of course, a low-hanging fruit in the beginning, to reach out to our dear Leica family, and a lot of them did purchase the watch, but we need to reach out to new target groups. And if we reach out to new target group, we might also make them interested of other products that we offer. And right now we are being our watches are being sold in about 55 Leica stores around the world, from LA in the west to Tokyo in the east. And of course, it's a challenge to sell watches in a very camera-focused environment, and the customers coming to our stores are very focused on photography and cameras. So that is a bit of a challenge which we are working on. We do have some plans how to enlarge our distribution, and we've received very good feedback from jewelers whom we have approached, but we are really in the beginning of that process. Because if it's one thing to sell within your own ecosystem, it's another one if you go external, and you need all the tools to be able to be in a quite harsh competition, no?
Yeah, and on top of that, thank you for that answer. I've noticed something very interesting, and this is really across any brand that sells products in multiple categories or even completely different types of industries. And that is, there is very rarely one consumer that will buy most or all the stuff they make, meaning people aren't really brand loyal in terms of everything they do. They're brand loyal only up to a certain type of product. Like if you want them to like your cameras and watches, it's possible, but you have to develop an entire new relationship. You can't just transfer like, if you like our cameras, you'll probably like our watches. You basically have to start from scratch with each product category relationship. And that therefore a company could be selling to broadly different groups of people who are just buying different products for sort of different reasons, even though it's made by the same company. And internally, that probably must drive marketing crazy, right? Because there's no one Leica consumer. There's like a bunch of groups and subgroups, and it probably gets like this crazy web, right?
You're right. Just because somebody is a Leica camera user and enthusiast, that doesn't mean that they automatically also go for other products which we offer. But we do see it quite often, actually, and there are a number of enthusiasts around the world who actually buy virtually everything we produce, which is of course great. But that is there are. But I mean, we cannot rely on this customer group.
The Leica only. Lifestyle guy. I want to meet these people.
Yes, yeah. You're right. Actually, this beauty is the Leica ZM2 Urban Green, a beautiful green dial. It was launched only. This is the new one. It was launched only a couple of days ago, and I was so happy when I received a WhatsApp from an old friend of mine, a Swedish guy with whom I shared a room at the boarding school, and he lives in London. He's a banker, and he wears Lange & Söhne, and he's pretty much into watches. He's not a complete watch nerd, but he likes the watches, and he has some nice watches at home. And he said, "I need it." And I said, "Yeah, there are not many around, but I need it. I'll order it tonight." And he did order it via our e-com store, and he got it 2 days later, and he's super happy with it. I wrote him yesterday. I said, "How is the watch? Are you happy with it?" He said, "It's super. I love it." And my wife is not happy. But he took the risk, and he bought it anyway. So I mean that shows how we and he did not buy it just because he knows me, and he didn't even see it just because I didn't send him any link or so. He saw it somewhere on social media or I don't know where, and that shows that we do have the potential with these watches to make people interested who collect watches, and that they don't need to have be collectors. Maybe it's Leica is probably not the first brand you buy, but if you have a few of the well-known brands, you might just start to be interested in having something which your friends do not have, and I think that's where Leica becomes interesting. You will not run into, at least not in the next few years, you will probably not run into another guy on the golf range who wears a Leica. It's something special.
You're absolutely correct that it's a competitive space, and within that competitive space, you don't just have a trendy brand, but you have a good product. I haven't worn all the watches, but I remember the ZM11 specifically. I immediately fell in love with when I put it on my wrist. I am the perfect person for it. I like the kind of modern Bauhaus kind of thing. I don't know how to call it. I love the legibility. I thought the bracelet was cool. I was on the bracelet. It didn't require any extra convincing to me, but a lot of people haven't had that hands-on experience. They haven't touched any of the Leica watches. My question is, when speaking to a watch person, explain to them what Leica adds, right? They've seen a lot of companies come in that in their mind don't traditionally make watches, saying, hey, we're making watches now. In the sort of group of watches, and again, you know this because you've been in watches a long time, where does Leica add something that other brands don't have? Meaning, if you're going to say to somebody, you add it to your collection for this reason, because Leica does this thing better than someone else, what is that thing or things so far?
I mean, nowadays nobody needs a mechanical watch. You have.
We do.
A lot of
you know it.
Yeah, well, I think you're right, But there are some people who think they can live without it. But life is pretty miserable without a mechanical watch.
Yeah,
you're right.
They're
I take
naked
back whatever I said. But there are a lot of brands out there, and there are a lot of great brands out there. I think what we add is something super exclusive, which is pretty rare, which has a nice heritage and a very nice product substance, offering characteristics which nobody else is offering right now. And if you look at the ZM2 Urban Green here, you see the power reserve between 8 and 9 o'clock, which is super easy to read. It's easier to read than if you have one with a hand. You just glimpse at it, you see it. If you need to feed this beautiful creature again, or we have the push crown. Instead of pulling the crown, you push it. Just like on a camera, and that has a number of advantages. It's a patent of ours, and actually, if you push the crown, the small second also resets at 12 o'clock, so you can restart the watch just on the second, and precision is certainly something that fits well to Leica. So there are a number of complications on this watch which are really great to use. And when I was traveling through Asia a couple of weeks ago, I used the second time zone a lot, and everything on this watch is usable and it makes sense. So we're not a gadget company, so we do not include things in our watches that you don't need just because it's possible to do it. So useful complications and a beautiful design. And of course, the quality and craftsmanship. And if you look at the ZM11, I would like to point out, and you can't really see it here on a laptop camera, but the dials are amazing. The dials are dual layered brass dials, and they feature two different colors. And while the inspiration for the ZM1 and 2 came from the hardware from the cameras we produce. The inspiration for the ZM11 and 12 comes more from the world of photography, how things change if you change the perspective.
Who designed
where
them?
The light comes, etc.
The ZM11 and 12.
The ZM1 and 2 were mainly designed by Professor Achim Heine, a designer who also produces or designs or who also has designed a number of Leica cameras. And the ZM11 and 12 were designed by Markus Eilinger, who has a pretty big background in nice brands like IWC, Schaffhausen, Zenith, Tudor.
Because I could tell they came from completely different minds. Like the LM and the ZM, totally different types of products in terms of what they look like. So they're both Leicas, but I asked because you could tell a different mind designed both of them.
Yeah. Actually, I would say, of course, the watchmaking highlight is definitely the ZM2. So the ZM1 and 2 with the hand-mount manufacture movement, they are something really special. But also the ZM11 and 12, they offer a great movement, no complications except the date, but they are simply, they appeal more to the design interested person. Overall, the interest I have seen so far is pretty equal. While the watchmaking competence is appreciated within the ZM1 and 2 range, also the design of the 11 and 12 and also a lower price point, of course, are very well received as well. So I think these two product lines fit well together, despite them being pretty different. And some journalists and end customers and retailers, they say, when they see the ZM11 and 12, they say, that's very Leica, Bauhaus, and at the same time pretty exciting with these horizontal lines and the dual laid dials, while others say the ZM1 and 2, they are just on the spot Leica. So I think my predecessors did a pretty good job there, and this is a good base to further develop the watch portfolio and the watch brand within Leica. But of course, it will take time. No? It's not an easy task that is over, and it should not be over. It should continue forever, but it takes time.
So we've established this incredible, almost sandbox environment because, as we've determined, the existing models, which are both great, are not really related to one another. One has this complicated German-made manually wound movement. The other has a very different types of design, lower price point, Swiss-made movement, designed by different people. As I said, moving forward, that means you're not locked into anything. German-made, Swiss-made, all different types of designs. That's fantastically open-ended, but also, I'm sure, in a sense, paralyzing, right? Like, I'm sure you have a vision by now. Do you know where you want to see the next 10 years? You're still trying to figure it out. What can you tell me about where your mind is at with this?
Without being able to go too much into detail, we are right now in the process of evaluating how to get deeper into the watch project. Meaning, we want to make it even more not in-house in terms of that we start to produce movements next to our cameras in-house. That would be a bit of too much of a challenge right now. But we definitely want to continue with the watch project. I think that the two product lines are enough for the time being. But there are some things, of course, I want to further develop. It's more an evolution than a revolution. You know, sometimes when there's a new sheriff in town, he wants to change everything. I think some things need to be changed and further developed, but there's a lot of the base is very good. So there is still a lot to be done, for example, with the ZM1 and 2, with this movement, with this classic design. However, I do think that we need an automatic movement, preferably a manufacturer movement for the so-called classic line. We also need a chrono because timekeeping is about precision. Timekeeping matches very well to Leica. So there are things like that. Or I know that our chairman, he keeps dreaming of a réveil, what do you call it in English? When you can set the time to wake up and then you hear it.
Alarm.
Alarm. Yes, that's simple. That's something that he would love to see. But of course, we have to have the right movement and design, etc., etc. So there are plenty of options, yes, but at the same time, with limited resources, you have to make sure that the next step always fits. So yes, a lot of opportunities, but also some constraints. And like I said, evolution rather than revolution. And since 6 months, we have a new designer on board, Gert Plange, who actually worked for IWC 22 years, mainly with the pilot watches and the Portuguese watches, which probably is a pretty good pedigree. And I did work with him when I was working for IWC Schaffhausen. So he's on board now, and he has made some pretty nice renderings of course, based on ideas which were discussed between me, but also other colleagues and him. So we have very nice ideas, and now we have to make sure that we get these, or at least a few of them, into the supply chain and then out on the wrists of our customers. So
I think what's interesting to me is the company is experiencing an opening up of its product as well as the message, right? So for many people, it was a camera company. And maybe for those who knew a little bit more, it was an optics specialist, right? Various types of telescopes and microscopes and things like that, binoculars. Now, what I'm seeing is there's more for the sort of like daily consumer, maybe even fashion things a little bit coming, obviously all utilitarian and tool based, but this is a major shift, and it puts Leica into a different category of company. Rather than being a hyper specialist, we do that thing well, you're now becoming a company that makes other things. And there's huge potential there. You could be like, Ralph Lauren, which is incredible. And a company that I admire, a little bit, less expensive, but I think that also shows some of the risk, is Victorinox, right? Knife maker, all of a sudden making clothing and fragrance and yes, suitcases, watches, of course. Some of those have been better than others. I remember, because I've worked with them closely, they had to end some of their products because they were being made by, third-party licensees, and it wasn't good. And that's not what Leica's doing. Leica's saying, we are doing that. We are choosing to expand. So rather than make more cameras, we'd rather use what we're good at and make something else that we like and that we think hopefully our customers like. Would you say that's an accurate categorization?
I'm not aware of the details of Victorinox, whether they worked a lot with licenses or so. But
they did.
For example, we are not giving out any license for watches or so. We do not produce them in house, but the heart and the brain and the strategy, that's all in house, definitely. And like I said, we are most probably getting even deeper into the whole thing, which is very positive. But also for other product categories, we do not hand out licenses to somebody and then hope for the best. So we for example, for the leather goods or so, if we were to come out with something like that in the future, that it would be something that we think of ourselves, where we think of the strategy and the design, and where can we find a certain bridge between what is typical for Leica from the product characteristics, design, etc. So that is super important. You must not dilute a brand by moving too fast and too far away from the core. Small steps are okay, and a brand must be allowed to develop. I'm pretty sure there are some customers out there who only want us to produce cameras for the rest of our time. And whatever new products we come out with, they say, no, you should stick to cameras. But I think if you have such a strong and successful brand with such a broad product portfolio. Actually, don't forget the sport optics, which we've had for many decades already. We are entitled to, and we should look for business opportunities beyond our core product range, but they must make sense. They must be truly Leica, and and that's what we're doing, and I think we're doing that pretty well. Of course, you have to keep in mind we're a medium-sized company. We have about 2,400 employees worldwide. The great thing is we have a global distribution with subsidiaries, with our own stores, of course, also multi-brand, meaning external distribution. But these internal Leica stores are, of course, a fantastic opportunity to show new products to our global customers.
Yeah, thank you for explaining. And I'll just sort of, remind everyone that my opinion is that there's great companies like Leica that can do that. And when they're at their best, it's because they treat each of those categories like an independent baby. They don't just sort of lean on one core strength and hope that consumers associate, there's like a halo effect on that one good area. Each area has to be given a lot of independent love and nurtured so that it has enough superlatives in its category to be good. So sort of final question here, and this is you as a marketing professional, really nothing specifically to do with your specific job, but it has to do with marketing and it has to do with today. Traditionally, especially in Europe, any association between a company that could make something for the defense industry and consumer industry, didn't want to talk about it. Like anything had to do with military weapons, whatever, companies just did not want to discuss it. America, a little bit the same, a little bit more forgiving. Today, given the fact that much of the world is remilitarizing, and it's actually seen as maybe more of a positive thing, are there opportunities, especially from a marketing perspective, to say, and for the military, we do all this crazy stuff. Imagine how good our consumer grade products are. Companies used to do that, especially in America a long time ago. I know, at least currently, and at least in the past, super taboo in Europe. Might that actually change in your opinion?
You should know that I was actually an officer in the Swedish Army.
I know. That's why I asked.
A couple of years. So I'm pro-military as long as it's the military serving a democratic country.
Yep, I'm with you on that.
Sad. I'm a bit sad when I look at the world of today. And without pointing out my personal thoughts about different countries and developments, it's a pretty sad world now. And yes, we are investing heavily into weapons and trainings and capacities all over the world. Money that should be used somewhere else. If it was possible to use it somewhere else, would be better. Actually, it's kind of funny that you take up the subject because 2-3 years ago in Germany, nobody wanted to work in defense industry. And I read that Rheinmetall, a company producing tanks and everything, they get 200,000 applications per year. So now everybody not just wants to have their shares, but also to work there. Or not everybody, but a lot of people. So it's not. You don't have to hide the fact that you work with these products anymore. We do not do that for the time being. It's not really up to me to decide whether we should go more for these kind of products. But I think we have enough potential within the peaceful market with cameras, with home cinema, with watches and accessories. So what happens in the future, we have to see. But I think that our heritage and our current product range has so many stories to tell that we don't really have to use new arguments.
It's the first time I've asked that question, and again, it's just because you seem to be the perfect person. I think there could be a shift. It's not a good or bad thing. It's just an interesting thing because it represents a complete 180 from the relationship that most European companies had to anything defense. I mean, I remember one time on Instagram, I was at a shooting range in America and I was wearing a watch. I was like, oh, wow, the watch survived the shock. And there was a gun there. I was at a shooting range and people in Europe like freaked out just that there was like, I was posting a picture. It wasn't even like glorifying it. I was like, wow, that is sensitivity. And as I've been reading about the shift, I realized, wait a minute, that could be changing. It could be becoming a little bit more like America. It's just interesting to think about how consumer sentiment like that has a big effect on the way they want to perceive the products they buy. It has an effect on the cars they buy, the fashion they wear.
I think there's still a lot of sensitivity around, especially in Europe. And when you turn on the iPad in the morning and you read what happened during the night, you get pretty sad and a bit scared also. I mean, everything is much closer to our borders than when you're in LA. It's far away. Here you fly 2.5 hours and you're over Ukrainian airspace. So I think the sensitivity will remain. The attitude towards guns is different in large parts of Europe. It's definitely different compared to the States. I think that we have, as Leica, we have so many beautiful stories to tell that we will stick to what we're doing right now.
Just interesting as you know, two professionals in this space talking about it, because some company will adopt that messaging. So it sounds to me that if you are a watch lover and you have not already seen Leica's watches, or maybe you don't know that it is a product for you, go to check it out. I want to check out more of it. And are they available just in the stores, or do you have a wholesale thing going on as well?
Right now, they are available only in 55 out of our 100 stores. But in LA, they are definitely available. We do have the first external wholesale dealer as well, actually in our hometown of Wetzlar.
Congrats.
We opened him up in mid-December, and he has told me 2, 3, or even 4 times, I love selling Leica because I have so nice stories to tell.
That's lovely.
That's and I also, a couple of weeks ago when I was in New York, I was taken by our Leica salesperson to Long Island, to a very renowned watch dealer there, and we showed some watches, and they were very impressed. They liked it. And that has happened to me in a number of countries, and we plan to extend to wholesale POS, but it's a step-by-step approach, and we also have to, when you open up somebody, you have to have the support. You have to have displays, you have to have a budget to do local events, you have to supply products once they're sold, etc. So it's not just going there and selling, and then it's like a long-term relationship. You really have to be ready for it, and we're starting to get ready for it, and step by step we will take that process.
So still an incredibly exclusive watch that less than 100 places you actually buy these watches, of course online as well, apparently, but that is still a very exclusive thing. I'll have to learn more about it. I'm curious about the evolving accessory division over at Leica. So you'll have to educate me more on that. This has been the Superlative Podcast interview with Henrik Ekdahl, the managing director of Ernst Leitz Werkstätten, where all the cool stuff other than the cameras and things and optics come from at Leica. I encourage you to visit the Leica website and learn all about this. Henrik, thank you so much.
Thank you for listening and watching, and it was a pleasure.